Well, 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 ChavezzSlovakia. We are back yet again for another video. This is part 2 of the top 15 strangest people caught on To Catch a Predator. Now, of course, because of copyright and things like that, you cannot show a lot of To Catch a Predator. So people were wondering why I didn't just do the show itself or react to the entire episode. But, you know, NBC, Crime Watch has their own website. They have their own YouTube channel and stuff like that. So you have to be really careful about how you go about doing stuff with To Catch a Predator. And that's why shouts out to top 15s, the 15 strangest people on To Catch a Predator. And the list is actually kind of grody. So yeah, let's get into it, man. We're at the top 7 strangest people from To Catch a Predator. We'll replay that part because it looked like it was a little bit turned down. I feel really bad for the actresses that have to actually do this and perform and pretend like they're okay with these people, like touching them and shit like that.
His bizarre fantasies into
so
custody.
bad.
Number 7,
John
Dube.
Dube.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, I'm really nervous.
Why?
I don't know, I've never done this. Have you?
No.
So what do you...
I don't know. Set Chris
Sometimes
Hansen.
people want double
Set
or
Chris Hansen, hey boo.
Thing. In Chris Hansen's new series, Hansen vs. Predator, John Dube was one of the first individuals caught in their sting. Dube managed to come into contact with 2 of the show's decoys. He even spoke on the phone with the decoys, and his speech pattern will send chills down a person's spine. His voice has the stereotypical tone of a predator.
Hello. Hey.
Oh my god, he actually
text-
sounds like that.
Messages to both girls, he stated he preferred to be called Boo. When he approached the house of one of the supposed girls, he brought gifts with them. While both the audience and crew held their breath as to what these could be, they turned out to be chips and iced tea. When Hansen confronted Dube, the latter played innocent, claiming he was there to watch football with the girl. During the course of the interview, Dube gets noticeably anxious, but maintains his innocence. Immediately upon Hansen identifying himself and the show, Dube attempts to flee, but is quickly apprehended. Dube is an example of how predators can always be on the prowl, having multiple targets in mind. Number 6.
That's so weird.
Walter
Just play the
Babst.
voice and creep the audience out.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
What do you do for a living?
I'm in education.
You're in education. A teacher.
For anyone with
Seeing more than one educator on this list, I had one teacher in high school, and he said that no matter what happened, whenever he had a conference with one of the students, he mandated that the door be left open. He would never be in a room alone or isolated with one of his students. And like, I always thought that was kind of silly, but like seeing this, I'm like, dude, I could actually see why.
children in school, they must all hope their kid's teacher is nothing like Walter Babst.
Ugh.
Babst was found by the team in an online chat, speaking to a decoy posing as a 12-year-old. This particular decoy, known as Beth Online, apparently saw a huge influx of people, from students in college to even people old enough to be considered her grandparents. However, Babst proved to be strange due to his job title. Babst was a school teacher teaching high school. The team associate, Wendy, said Babst showed up a day after he began speaking to Beth. Once Chris Hansen walked in.
What the fuck, cat? What? Did y'all hear that? He just knocked a water bottle off the counter.
Babst immediately knew he was caught and stated he needed to be locked up. He was noticeably anxious throughout the interview, wishing to get it done and over with. Like almost all of the others who appeared on the show, Babst claimed to know what he was doing was wrong. Once Hansen reveals the show to Babst, he quickly leaves the house and is swiftly taken into custody by police. It is likely safe to say he has lost his teaching license and will no longer be able to teach anyone of any age ever again.
That is that insane how many of these people on the list just admit flat out they knew what they were doing was wrong when they did it. Sometimes people just ain't worth a dime, bro. You just cannot trust people, dude. They knew what they was doing. And at this point, when you get the chat logs, when you get everything put together, you make the case. They cannot deny that,
Number
dude.
5.
They did
Lauren
it.
Armstrong.
Would you like me to go out in the truck and get my stuff?
No, it's alright.
No? You don't want your thing right now? Present I gave you?
Well, what is it?
Well, I can't tell you. That wouldn't be much of a present if I told you.
Of all the days this entry chose to show up, his luck ran out on the worst possible day. Lauren Armstrong was found by the team when he began speaking to a decoy, posing as a 13-year-old girl during their Bowling Green, Kentucky sting. After almost a week of communication, Armstrong professed his love to the decoy, stating he wished he could marry her, calling her special to him. After they agreed to meet, he asked the decoy to delete her archive, a request Chris Hansen attributes to Armstrong knowing what he was doing is wrong. When Armstrong arrived at the house, the decoy actress noticed how excited and confident he was to be there, with the footage showing him as friendly, complimenting her hair and looks, as well as admiring the massage chair he was seated in. From a viewer's standpoint, there's an aura of sincerity to Armstrong's words, which definitely makes the interaction uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In reality, there are two ways it could be. Either that he was genuinely sincere in his words and feelings, or he is an example of just how manipulative some predators can be. The former is further fueled when Hansen enters. With Armstrong displaying the typical remorse others on the show has shown, again his remorse appears sincere, and his claims of wishing to marry the girl also appears genuine. He even reveals he bought an expensive bracelet for the girl. He breaks down into tears before the cameras are revealed, after which he walks out and is promptly taken into custody. His reaction on the show has sparked sympathy, with a petition online gathering signatures to clear his name. The petition page claims that he was set up by Dateline and the team simply out of greed and to boost ratings. Number 4.
What? I need to see the chat logs. Now they're saying because of, maybe he has some kind of mental disability, or what exactly? Like, to boost ratings? How do I convince you to come to an underage person's house when you know they're underage? Why does anything in the middle matter? Does anything in the middle matter? When you know that it's a crime, what you're doing? I don't know if that's what the petition should be for, man. I think I support a lot of petitions, but I might not support this, dude.
John Canelli.
I remember this dude.
I have been in television for 24 years.
I just came to get something to eat.
And I have very seldom been at a loss for words.
Sir, I just came to get something to eat.
But I don't even know what to ask you first.
If people believe Seabird is the most ridiculous person to have twice appeared on the show, wait until you hear about this next person.
Don't all these people look like pedophiles, bro? Like, don't all these people look... Like, when you see this and you see them in court, you be like, alright, I'm not really surprised. This dude, alright, cool. They're some funky looking dudes.
John Canelli was an unemployed Virginia resident who was discovered by the team using the alias Special Guy 29. During his chats, he believed he was talking to a 14-year-old boy claiming to be a teacher at a distinguished high school in the area. During the conversation, the decoy convinced Canelli to meet up at the house. To the surprise of everyone in the sting, Canelli showed up and stripped to nothing before walking into the house. He sat alone in the kitchen for a short time. Chris Hansen walked in and asked Canelli to explain himself. Immediately, Canelli began apologizing, believing Hansen to be the boy's father. Canelli's demeanor became shameful and nervous as Hansen conducted his interview. Canelli was permitted to leave the house after the interview, but despite his apparent remorse, things continued to spiral into absurdity. Less than 24 hours later, decoys found Canelli back online using the same screen name, attempting to talk to what he thought was a 13-year-old boy. He again agreed to meet with the boy 15 minutes after the conversation began and was confronted by Hansen in front of McDonald's. Initially, Canelli played innocent, claiming he was only getting something to eat. This time, Hansen went full out in his confrontation, stating he couldn't believe anything Canelli said at this point. Number 3, Louis Conrad.
Lord. 15 minutes?
Hello?
Hey, Will.
Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing. What are you doing?
Nothing.
No?
No, I was looking up to see how to get to where you are.
By far the most bizarre and biggest twist to occur in To Catch a Predator's timeline, nothing compares to the story of Louis Conrad, a Texas assistant district attorney. Conrad served in the Kaufman County District for over 20 years before attempting to run as a district judge when he was not elected while living a modest
Get these people in jail, Chris.
life in the criminal justice system. Conrad was hiding a secret desire. The team came into contact with Conrad, who was posing as a 19-year-old. In 2006, he began conversing with a team decoy, acting as a 13-year-old named Luke, and the two communicated frequently. Decoys even sent false images, and Conrad returned the favor by exposing himself. After 2 weeks of communication, the team managed to have Conrad agree to a phone conversation with a decoy posing as Luke's voice. It became clear the phone call aroused suspicion in Conrad, and he ceased all contact. Eventually, members of law enforcement used the evidence to gain a warrant for Conrad.
His arrest.
Descended on his
Go get him. Go get him.
Terrell, Texas. The Dateline crew also came along in order to capture it on video. However, both Dateline and police got more than they expected when SWAT officers were confronted by Conrad, who took his own life. He is also an example of how predators can hold lives we wouldn't expect. Dateline decided to air the footage, albeit
it's sad that he took his life, but I just think it kind of just makes sense because this whole situation, these things don't just happen with people that don't have some type of social disorder or something else going on. I don't think in a lot of situations. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, that's just their fetish, that's just what they're into. But I think in a lot of other situations, like that dude who just got caught by Chris Hansen and Dateline, put on television, and then the next day agreed to meet up with another, what he thought was a 13-year-old boy 13 minutes later. You know what I mean? Like, that just shows there's definitely something else going on here, not just I just want to do this and I'm going to do it no matter what. You know what I mean?
Spikes. This man was on the wrong side of the law while posing as someone on the right side of it. Todd Spikes began chatting with a girl he thought was 14 years old during the team sting in Flagler Beach, Florida. Well, it turns out Spikes was a police officer. He also revealed that he was fully aware what he was doing was wrong. Spikes decided to make the journey to Flagler Beach and called the decoy from a payphone. As he began to pass by the house, something clearly rose his suspicion, and he continued on driving. Local police made the decision to pull him over, and he was taken into custody. Chris Hansen was clearly shaken, with the detective on scene stating the crew probably dodged some sort of major confrontation should Spikes had entered the house. It is unknown what or if Spikes had anything planned, but luckily for Dateline and the team, they never had to find out.
That was really vague. What do you mean? Like he had like a gun on him, or he was acting violently, or what? You didn't, that was too vague. Like had something planned. All of these dudes have something planned. That's why we're here.
Wallach.
Oh, no. Wallach.
He brought his son with him. He's got his child with him.
By far, this is the most bizarre and strangest moment to happen in To Catch a Predator's history. Clifford Wallach was a Florida man caught during the team's sting in Fort Myers, Florida, back in 2006. He began talking with a decoy posing as a 14-year-old boy. He remains careful though, refusing to send photos via text messages against the decoy's request, but continues communication for some time before agreeing to meet in person. Upon arrival at the Sting House, police and Dateline reporters were puzzled as Wallach struggled to get something out of the back seat. To their surprise, Wallach had brought his toddler son. Everyone in the operation admitted they had never seen anything like it and were not at all prepared for the situation. Out of the sake for Wallach's son, Chris Hansen immediately revealed himself and the show, stating for the sake of his son, the man should leave, which Wallach does. As he exits, police immediately walk towards him, having no patience when they demand Wallach let go of his son and put his hands behind his back. A female officer takes the boy away, and he is looked after by officers, while others take Wallach into custody. During the whole procedure, Wallach is crying and begging for his son, although the officers show little to no sympathy at this point. Thanks for checking out this video.
Begging for your son? What did you bring your kid with you for, man? Now that is ridiculous, dude. Now see, that shows the restraint of the police force. That's why I'm not a police officer. That'd have been some kind of tragic accident. What do you bring your kid for, man? What are you bringing your kid for? ChavezzSlovakia, that is actually the craziest ending I've ever seen in one of these videos. Chills, shouts out to you, man. You did a fantastic job. Top 15s, that's the name of the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit Chills up on some of his other stuff. He's got a Pennywise video. I know some of you guys might be interested in. Make sure you check that shit out. That is it for me, man. That is it for me. Good God Almighty.